Yes, I have finally taken a turn from the guy showcasing soft blocks to the guy showing how you can break open a potential soft block in Silksong, a concept you may be very familiar with if you've ever seen Pete Gaspary's videos on soft block picking before. Fantastic series. I thought, why not try to do that in Hollow Knight Silksong and not just Pokemon? So the basis of this soft lock is we have no Silk Hearts, and it is possible in Hollow Knight Silksong to completely avoid the first Silk Heart in the game, which you normally get by defeating the Bell Beast. The way to do that is through a series of very interesting skips that let you go through the Worm Way without having any movement abilities at all. And this means that we can completely bypass saving the Bell Beast entirely. So while we won't have fast travel, we also won't have any passive Silk generation. And Team Cherry made the very interesting decision to tie some movement abilities in this game to Silk. So what happens if we go and get the Clawline without having any Silk? Well, first I need to show you, ladies and gentlemen, that that is possible. So I'm going to show off the path to get all the way to the Clawline with no Silk. This skip begins right here. You can get into the Wormways in Act 1 before even touching the Bell Beast, as long as you buy the simple key from the shopkeeper in Bone Bottom. So basically, just go and farm up a casual 500 beads in the first section of this game. It is possible, it's just very slow. But after opening the door, you can get into the Wormways. And the reason I think Team Cherry allowed this is because they figured you would get stuck and have to go back and beat the Bell Beast because you don't have movement abilities. Unfortunately for them, they made their game in a way that many skips are possible. And one of the best way to do skips in this game is to kill Hornet. Yes, in case you've forgotten, Hornet spawns a cocoon upon her death that can be pogoed off of. So, by killing Hornet in this spot here, we can make it all the way to that upper right platform using a cocoon skip. Now that the cocoon is here, there is a very easy way to set this up so you can get this pogo right, and that is by doing a jump off that ledge grab down there, and then pogoing down and to the left. You do a heel stall after that, and very consistently you will make it up to this ledge. And after this point, there's pretty much only one more stopgap to get through the Wormways. The remaining jumps that are impossible all remain in this room right here. The first one is this jump up to the platform to the left here. That is the only way to go to continue on in this room. You cannot make this jump, so you have to go up and left here. And the way you do that is with a heel stall. As I said, the way you do that is with a heel stall. As long as you're not terrible at this game, you can make it up to this ledge. But that leaves us with one unfortunate jump remaining, and an enemy ready to kill us. This jump up and to the right is impossible without another heel stall. But fortunately for us, you can jump off this platform and respawn up here, as long as you don't touch any stable ground in the meanwhile. So what you need to do is farm up another bar's worth of silk, enough that you can bind again, off of these worms right here. And you have to do it without obviously losing all of your masks, and without ever stepping on a platform that's stable. These two platforms are perfectly fine to step on. You cannot step on the platform to the left of the worms. That will reset Hornet's respawn point next time she takes damage to the spikes. So, I do it this way. You can do it quicker, but getting one pip of silk at a time is just safer, in my opinion, than trying to pogo off the spikes forever. So there, you can respawn. Then, you can do a heel stall and make it up to this platform.
Failure!
You can do a heel stall up to this platform, and there you go. It's as simple as that. And at this point, there's not really any major skips or tricks needed to get through the rest of the Wormways. I will show getting through the last room of it, because it can be a bit tricky. It's always a good idea to come into any of these rooms with a full bar of silk so you can heal stall if need be. But all you really need to do to get through here is make this pogo here. I say it can be tricky because if these enemies start chasing you, then you've lost your easy pogo and you cannot get there without either getting a good pogo or possibly with a good enough heal stall. But yeah, that room is a bit stressful too, because once you fall, you go all the way down to bone bottom and have to redo all the previous steps, so just be careful with that. But you may be wondering why we did this whole rigmarole to get to Shellwood, because even though we did manage to skip the Bell Beast and skip his Silk Cart, we also are skipping all movement abilities. We cannot run, we cannot do anything, we can't float. And that's because we are going to get the Cling Grip, and that will allow us to get the ability to dash and the ability to float in the future. Because we need the Cling Grip to get the dash, we don't have the necessary movement abilities to get the Cling Grip without doing some skips. And the number one skip, the Garama skip, is where by spamming taunt in this one room, we will be able to move this enemy all the way to a position where we can pogo off of it. And by pogoing off of it, we are going to skip Sister Splinter entirely. So yeah, that boss too hard for you? Just do a much harder skip, and you'll have no problems. Pogo and pogo down onto that platform, and there you go. You've effectively skipped the entire room necessary in a normal playthrough to get here. That room being blocked by Sister Splinter. At this point, there is one more room we need to go through that requires skips in order to get the Cling Grip. It is up and to the left here. Getting to that room is simple. You just can pogo off of these plant enemies. And the next room is not easy, so I'm going to show off a couple of ways you can get through it. This room is just barely possible through a series of a couple of difficult skips and very precise platforming. Number one, if this enemy is around this high, you can pogo off of it to get up to this ledge. If that enemy is not high enough, you can set up a damage stall and get up there that way by getting hit by the enemy on the left. But at this point, you run into this problem, a problem so bad I've died to it previously, where you need to do a very precise series of pogos at just the right distance in order to get to the next platform. Like I said, it's precise, it's difficult. I'm going to show you the correct way to do it after I'm done with all my failings here. That is what the correct pogo looks like. Be careful not to die again after you get through there, because you have a lot of ground to make if you do. And even though that is somewhat difficult, what comes after this is the hardest part of this room. You have to make a series of 4 very, very precise pogos. Something I failed at immediately. So now you can see why I said this room is hard. There you go, simple as that. And like I said, having enough silk to bind is always good in case you just are inches away from missing a ledge. And at this point, we have set up pretty much everything we need. I'm going to show you why it was important we got the Cling Grip, because getting the Cling Grip in this fashion is pretty much the only way to get back and get the movement abilities we truly need, like dash and the cloak to let us float over platforms. And by getting the Cling Grip, we are now able to go to Haunted Bellheart and use a skip there to get past the Bell Beast without ever needing to kill him. Hello my friends, you are not safe now and you will not be safe for a while, but I will eventually come back, because sadly we do need the needle in to even get to Act 2. So by going in this secret room to the right of the Bellway here, and by having Cling Grip, this is why Cling Grip is necessary, we are able to make it through this entire area, and we can get out at the bottom of this area. In case you hadn't seen the map of this area before, it exits down around the Marrow, which means that this is the only way to get past the Bell Beast without killing him. And once you've killed the Bell Beast, you have no choice but to pick up the Soul Cart, sadly, So that is why freeing the Bell Beast is not an option. If I could have freed the Bell Beast and not taken the Silk Heart, I would have done so. I love the Bell Beast. I love her so much that it hurts me inside that I have to keep trapping her in these videos. But because we have to do this instead, you need the Cling Grip to get through this room. This room's the only path we can go. And as you can see, we have just managed to exit out into the Marrow. So 10 minutes into this video, we have moved probably like what would take 1 minute of actual real time to do in a casual playthrough. So at this point, you can continue the game as normal. You should get all your abilities, you should be able to dash, be able to float, and you should do everything you need to get to Act 2, where I will be getting the Clawline, although I now have no way to generate passive Silk. So at this point, I'm sure you're wondering, how could I possibly not get soft locked in that room I show in the thumbnail? Well, I will give you a couple of seconds to formulate your own thoughts on it. Pause if you'd like to, but otherwise, I'm going to show you how I've done it. With all of our setup done, we are entering the room where you normally unlock Clawline. As you can see here, the platforms that you can dash off of go off into the lava, and once the Clawline is gotten, those platforms will disappear entirely. That is because Team Cherry wanted to give you a kind of tutorial section after getting the Clawline to show you that you can get onto those rings using the Clawline and use those to platform across great horizontal distances. The problem is, by establishing this tutorial location and removing the ability to get out of here by dashing, we can say bind accidentally, and once we've bound and gotten rid of all of our silk, we don't have the Silk Heart. So L2 to harpoon, we can't do that because in their infinite wisdom, Team Cherry made it so that it requires at least 1 bar of silk to use the harpoon. As you can see in the top left corner, it is not working when I press L2. Now, you can try and eke out as much distance as possible by running, jumping, and floating, but you are never going to make it unless you have the ability to use the Clawline in the Clawline tutorial. Who could have guessed? So at this point, you might think, well, Kilroy, you always do this in these softlock videos. Why don't you just try and save and quit, huh? Saving and quitting is something that will oftentimes work by getting you to reset a location and maybe go back to the last bench. However, the thing is, whenever you unlock a new ability, it sets your save point to that ability unlock. So by saving and quitting, we're here. And because we don't have a Silk Heart, saving and quitting will never grant us silk to use. So we will continue to be lost here for the foreseeable future. Now, there is one other ability that Team Cherry added as kind of a softlock prevention method. I normally don't talk about it because, like, resetting the game is a way that you can defeat any softlock, and another way to defeat any softlock in this game is to use the save rollback feature that Team Cherry included. However, the save rollback feature is actually not effective in this game. You'd think it'd be very easy for this specific softlock because you can just roll back to when you got the Clawline and then you'd reload with all of the silk that you got upon getting the Clawline. However, in this specific instance, the silk is not given to you even when you revert to this state. So at this point, how could you get out of this softlock with no silk? Well, for as unshakable a setup this may appear, there is in fact a very, very simple way to generate silk in Hollow Knight Silksong that may have been overlooked by you in the audience. Dying generates silk. And because we are fortunate enough to be in a room where lava exists, we have unlocked the only way out of this softlock, by killing Hornet. Because upon killing Hornet, a cocoon will spawn in the location where she died. And because we respawn right here, we can immediately break it open and gain access to a full bar of silk. So if this room had the exact same gimmick where all the platforms you used to get here disappeared, but instead of lava being underneath the platforms, there was just a hard rock ground, then this softlock would be, in my opinion, utterly unbreakable. there would be no way to generate silk, because there are no tools, to my knowledge now, and no abilities to kill Hornet without using enemies or environmental hazards in this game. So at this point, we have silk. And then it becomes a question of, well, forgetting just this room, what happens if we get rid of all of our silk in any room that requires the Clawline, like right here? Well, fortunately for us, we have an infinite amount of enemies that respawn, so by killing every enemy in this room, we will not be able to lock ourselves out of the silk forever. But this theoretical softlock is simply a symptom of one of the bigger problems with tying movement abilities to silk in this game. I have not mapped out every possible location where the Clawline is required in Hollow Knight Silksong, or where something like Silk Sword is required in Hollow Knight Silksong. However, I would not be surprised for an instant if there was another room like this where silk generation is needed when you don't have any silk cards. Because there are a lot of rooms that have Clawline required platforming or Clawline required switches to activate things. And if you don't have a silk card, you have only the ability to rely on enemies or other sources of silk. And if I die here, like I just showed you, I am respawning back where I first got the Clawline and losing all of my rosary beads. And because the only way out of here is by spawning another cocoon, I am forced to lose all of my rosary beads to die again to get more silk to escape here. So hey, softlock picked, a softlock that I created myself. I would love to hear recommendations or ideas for softlocks that you've come up with that you want to see me pick if possible. Because I love doing this kind of work with softlocks. I've been doing it for a bit now when it comes to Hollow Knight Silksong. But I'd also love to see ways to break out of softlocks that are seemingly inescapable. Like I said, Picasprite has been doing this kind of stuff for a while now. Please check them out and check out their videos if you have free time. Subscribe to my channel and like this video if you want to see more content like this. Have a good day, everyone.